Hey everyone, it's Jason from GameRave.com, and this is Pause Mode. Alright guys, so today's episode of Pause Mode, we're going to discuss completing a full set of games, but not from the angle you're probably accustomed to. And what do I mean by that? In the simplest terms, if you're going for a full set, obviously that means you're going for every game on a system. Case in point with the PlayStation, all 1,284 games. Now, if you're collecting a full set for different systems that all exist in the same era, you can actually have a lot of duplication. Case in point, if you were collecting for the 3DO, the Jaguar, the PlayStation, and the Sega Saturn from the 32-bit era, you'd actually have 4 copies of Rayman to worry about. It's the same game, minor differences aside, why would you need it? So if you're one of those gamers who's looking to have at least one of every game, but not necessarily multiple times across this different systems, here's how you do it. It's what I like to call satellite collecting. Technically it's a bit more or less exclusives collecting, but in reality the way it works is from a satellite point of view. And how does that work? If you've ever purchased gaming systems in their current time frame, like for example if you're buying a PS4 or an Xbox One, you often hear people saying, oh, I'll get System A, but then I'll get System B later for a couple of the exclusives. That's how satellite collecting works. Basically, you pick one system that will act as your main system, which you would get the full, complete set for that game. And then every system in that genre, or I keep saying genre, it's in the era, will then be a satellite system. And while this would work, especially well in the PlayStation and to a degree the 360 PS3 era, something really cool happened with the PlayStation and Saturn situation. Alright, now this is under the guise that you're using the PlayStation 1 as your main system. Once you have all 1,284 games for the PlayStation and then move on to the Sega Saturn as your first satellite system, we can eliminate all the third-party games that are duplicated across both systems. When you remove those, the Saturn library actually drops to 122 games out of 250. Not only is that a huge savings out of pocket, but something magical kind of happens. When you remove all the third-party games, you are left with a very condensed, almost, for lack of a better term, refined library that is full of excellent arcade games, great RPGs, and excellent sports games. The Saturn suddenly becomes a second Neo Geo. It's an arcade powerhouse that just happens to have a better diverse set of games. And oddly enough, once you get done with the Saturn's full set, if you do decide to move on to the 3DO and the Jaguar, from there you have more games you can eliminate. You don't need most of the Crystal Dynamics games from the 3DO because they got ported to the PlayStation. You can get rid of Raiden and Rayman on the Atari Jaguar because they appear on PlayStation as well. And you can even save money on the Horde on 3DO, that's on Saturn. And basically, as you keep going down each next satellite system, when you're done, you now have a full library of 32-bit generation games without a single duplicate. Now, like with every other collecting adventure, there is one small caveat to this situation, and it's not so much a bad caveat, it's more of a decision caveat. In each situation of the satellite collecting, there's going to be moments where a game is actually better on Saturn than on PlayStation, or better on 3DO than Saturn, etc. For example, the Saturn has a far superior copy of Power Slave, Street Fighter Alpha 2, and Rayman on it. Not that far superior for Rayman. So in that matter, that's up to you, the consumer, to decide which one you're going to go with. But either way, you can see how you can collect more and more games without having the need for duplicates and so forth, unless you start collecting variants. Alright guys, that does it this week for Pause Mode. We'll join you next week for another episode of Game Rave TV. Hopefully all of you enjoyed the 20th anniversary videos and projects we had going. The Back to the Future project's been doing really well, and I really appreciate and love that how many people are actually playing along with it and so forth. It's just really cool to see that type of fan interaction. That being said, guys, have a great week. We will see you next time on Game Rave TV. Have a great one.